All right, everybody. It is excellent to be here. I haven't done a Facebook Live in a long time, so I'm just super excited to see you and to tell you a story. I'm a storyteller who happens to be a dating coach. My name is Marc Katz, dating coach for smart, strong, successful women. And I sent out an email today. If you're not on my mailing list, I'm going to recap some of the highlights of it. But it's about feeling stuck. And I know because I talk to women every single day on the phone that there is a propensity to feel stuck in your love life and to feel like you have no control over your own destiny. Let me ask you if this sounds familiar. You ended a long term relationship that didn't result in marriage. You keep hooking up with guys who don't want to commit. You date guys who don't actually excite you in any way. You browse guys online and you don't find anybody attractive. You think there's no good men left in your city. You're texting a bunch of dudes who are not making any sort of effort. You wonder if something is wrong with you, but you have no idea what that thing might be. You start to lose hope that you're ever going to find a quality man. Does any of that resonate? If any of that resonates, I would appreciate if you could comment below so I could see your reactions. I could see who's listening. Um, the truth is that all of us tend to feel stuck. And when you feel stuck, you start to feel hopeless. And when you feel hopeless, there's no purpose to keep on going. It's like there's this black cloud that hovers over your head that lets you know that you're wasting your time, that this is going to end the same way as the other ones ended. Um, and that's no way to be. One can't function with that black cloud over their head for a long term because it's disincentivizing. What's the point of living if this pandemic is never going to end? What's the point of getting up every day if there's no opportunity for joy? And certainly, what's the point of dating if, in fact, dating is futile, your area is terrible, men are bad, dating apps suck, right? There is none. And so, every day for 17 years, I have been on this quest to hear women and validate your experiences and perspectives and help you reframe them and turn them around. And just because I give this advice and just because I really am, no shit, a very happily married man who helps other people and has a long track record of helping other people get happily married, right, doesn't mean that I'm immune from feeling stuck myself. Now, not going to talk about my relationship today because it really is a happy, healthy relationship. But I will try to parallel something that I think is important because we all have our own version of stuck. Some people stuck is how they feel about their health and their body and their weight. Some people it's their love life. Some people it's their career. For me, it was definitely my job, and my job is my passion. This isn't just like a thing I do for fun. It's not just a small time hobby. I eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff when I'm not with my family. And for, I don't know, 14 straight years, my business grew and grew and grew. And I was helping more and more people and reaching more people through Google and teaching more people and having more success stories. And I had this amazing tech team. And it was like having, they were like my work husbands. I had these two guys in Seattle, and they were my go-to guys. And I loved them like brothers, and they helped me grow my business from 2010 to 2016, and they helped me launch my signature course, Love You. And then they said, we're gonna start our own business. It's been fun working for you for the past 6 years, but we're gonna start our own business. And it was like being told I was gonna get divorced in my early 40s. Totally no preparation for that. But I figured I would be fine. I'm a survivor, blah, 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 blah. And so after my divorce from my tech teams, after they left me, I realized that I was not going to be fine, at least not yet. I wanted to kind of get, metaphorically remarried. And then so I started dating other tech teams. And if you know anything about dating, you could really identify with these stories, this parallel. Remember, I haven't dated in 14 years, but I listen to dating stories, and this is my dating story. I hire one team that comes highly recommended We have a personality clash. The relationship lasts for 2 months. I hire another tech team. They're really nice, but the head of the company hands me off to an underling at the company who is not as technically adept. My business starts to plummet. That was a 7-month relationship. I hired some guy who was really good with numbers, but he didn't have great communication skills. That was 8 months of a relationship. I hired a woman who was wonderful, helped out a friend, but when I hired her, she was going through a personal crisis in her life. She wasn't available to give herself to this business. That failed after 4 months. I hired some big tech bro, brilliant, big talking alpha guy who was objectively a jerk, stopped returning my calls, and I ended up firing him. That was after 4 months. And so this is 2 years. That's all I'm taking you through is 2 years of me dating from a place of fear, scarcity, familiarity, potential. There's my landline. I still have a landline. So I'm telling this story for a purpose. Have you ever done something similar when it comes to your love life, where you were dating from a place of fear, scarcity, familiarity, or potential? Because if you were, let me tell you, fear is probably the number one thing that I listen to women complain about. Now, they don't even know they're feeling it sometimes. Right? But when I get on the phone and I ask women about their love life and I talk them through and I take notes on this little post-it note, or women tell me their stories, they tell me they're afraid of dating. They're afraid of not dating. They're afraid of being alone for the rest of their lives. They're afraid of being rejected. They're afraid of sex. They're afraid of getting hurt. They're afraid of investing time in another guy who's not the right guy. They're afraid of falling in love with a guy who turns out to suck and not having the courage to leave. Right? Fear is a very common theme from women who in other aspects of their life don't necessarily feel afraid. Right? Scarcity. Let's talk about scarcity. Scarcity is feeling like there's no good men out there and treating any guy who excites you or there's any chemistry as if he's the last man on earth. So when you're feeling scarce, you cling to any man who shows you positive attention, any man who tells you you're beautiful, any man who's willing to commit to you, any man who says the right things. And the problem is when you're operating from a place of scarcity, you suffer through bad relationships. Instead of dumping that guy after a month, when you get the sense that he's not emotionally invested in you, or he doesn't want to get married, or he's a bad communicator with anger issues, you sweep it under the rug and you stay. And you stay for 6 months, and you stay for 1 year, and you stay for 5 years. I've got a client right now who stayed for 6 years. I've got clients who stayed for 20 plus years in relationships because they didn't feel they can do better. They held on to this one man. That is scarcity rather than abundance. Abundance is, there's a billion guys, this is just one, let's throw them back in the sea. So scarcity is a really big driver in relationships. Now let's talk about familiarity. Right? I would hire people because I liked them. Just because I liked them. They seemed to connect with me, as if that was the reason to hire someone. Or I'd hire someone because I knew them, I met them at a conference once upon a time. That's what people do. You hire a guy as your intern. Love you, right? Women are the CEOs, men are the interns. You hire some guy, and you hire him because he's an old high school guy that you saw on Facebook, or he's an ex-boyfriend who circled back after some trauma in his love life to tell you that he really wants to give things a shot, or he gets some random text in the middle of the night from some guy you went out with 3 years ago who has nothing better to do. Right? It's giving the benefit of the doubt to someone that you already know when there's no evidence that that person you already know who has not proven to be a good husband suddenly decides that he's lonely, and you're lonely, and so then you give the benefit of the doubt to familiarity. Give me a thumbs up, give me a shout out if any of this is ringing true. Next, potential. Right? I hire on potential. Someone tells me they could do this complicated job that I'm asking. You hire a guy, you take on a boyfriend based on his potential. He's not in love with his work right now, but he's hoping that one day he can become a life coach. He's, currently separated from his wife, but I'm pretty sure he's going to leave her. He tells me he's, you know, not sure what he's looking for in the future, but he thinks he may be open to a long-term relationship. He never said marriage. He thinks he may be open to a long-term relationship in a future. All right. So women, and not just women, I've coached women, but women spend a lot of time focusing on guys' potential. And I don't care about a guy's potential. I care about where he is right now. What could he do for me now? Not, is he going to grow into the man I want him to be in 1 year, 2 years, 5 years? Because if you avoid all these guys, you save yourself a whole bunch of trouble. Dating the separated guy, dating the guy who lives in a different state, dating the guy who's between jobs, between lives, who doesn't know what he wants, doesn't know if he wants marriage, doesn't know if he wants kids. And you're saying, well, but maybe if he loves me, he'll change his mind. You can't have a relationship with someone dependent upon that person changing for you. Write that down. You can't have a relationship with someone dependent upon someone changing for you. You got to assume this is it. So like you, I kept on hiring people because I was scared and I was lonely and I was operating from a place of scarcity. I was afraid my business was collapsing. I needed to have someone rather than no one. I couldn't just go at it alone. And so for all these reasons, I kept on mishiring over the past 4 years. And I think that might resonate with you when it comes to your love life. So if that's how you've been choosing your men, your heart may be in the right place, but you're probably not having any more fun dating than I had over the past 4 years in my business, when I would wake up every day with the weight of the world on my shoulders and try to figure out how to push the rock uphill. Constantly struggling, constantly feeling anxious, knowing that it should be more fun, it should feel better, and something feels out of alignment. And at a certain point, I gotta guess, you start to doubt your own judgment. Right? You start to look in the mirror and say, how is this me? What's wrong with me that I can't figure this thing out that other people seem to figure out? There's other people who are no better than I am that don't seem to struggle in this same way. And so then you're left with two choices. You're left at a fork in the road. Keep persevering and tinkering with what you're doing, or give up. Those are your choices. Right? Keep going or give up. There's not much in between. But here's the one thing you can't do. You can't do the same thing over and over and expect different results. I can't, you can't. And I can stand on my soapbox and preach, but this is not an easy lesson to learn. I'm only telling you this today. I'm only doing a Facebook Live YouTube stream today because it took me 4 years to get to this point after my work divorce. So it was about 1 year ago, right, last April-ish, that I vowed to do, and this is like a Seinfeld Costanza type thing, I vowed to do the opposite of what I was doing. Instead of trying to find one super perfect, do-it-all, expensive tech team that could solve all my problems, because that's what I had before, they're really rare. It's really hard to find something like that. I decided I needed to pivot, right? Because every time I hired one of those teams, they drowned under the weight of what I was asking them. And sometimes you could find a man who drowns under the weight of what you're asking of him as a boyfriend and as a man, because he's just not strong enough, he's not ready. So instead of foisting that on someone who's unsuspecting or unwilling, right, sometimes it's smart to come up with a different way to do things. So I decided to reinvent my business, and it's part of why I'm sharing with you, right, by hiring the best specialists in the world to help me do things that I couldn't figure out myself. I hired a branding person. Right? I'm a writer. I should know how to do this. I hired a branding person. I hired a copywriter. I hired a photographer. I hired a designer. I hired an SEO team. I hired a social media podcast team. I hired an online business manager. Instead of feeling desperate, which I did feel, and taking on anyone just because I was frustrated or scared I couldn't do better, for each of these positions, these smaller positions, I interviewed multiple teams for each one, and sometimes interviewed them over a course of weeks and even months before making a choice. So I challenge you, if you're still listening to me, Think about what your love life would look like if you just did those two things today when you say you're feeling stuck. What if you just followed this simple advice? Instead of going on dating apps, swiping right and texting, and then complaining, dating sucks, which it does when you do it that way. Imagine there was a different way to approach it. Imagine one that was more thoughtful, more methodical. Instead of agreeing to go out for coffee with total strangers who texted you a couple times, imagine you could go out on higher quality first dates with men who had skin in the game and prioritized you and were excited to meet you and take you out. Imagine that instead of sleeping with men who had no commitment to you, you could see yourself dating a guy for a month before deciding whether he's worthy of your bed or your commitment. These choices are all yours. You know the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. The question is why you would do anything that doesn't work over and over. If that sounds like an attack, it's not. It's exactly what I was just going through. I've been in that place for the past 4 years. You do the same thing over and over because you honestly don't know what to do differently. I finally do, and I'm here to share it with you. After 17 years of giving dating and relationship advice, I was the first dating coach back in 2003. I've taken everything I know, organized it, consolidated it, and made it easy to find and digest on my new Marc Katz website, which is launching on Tuesday, April 20th. I've been fortunate enough to have written 4 books, created the most comprehensive dating and relationship coaching program, Love You, in the entire world. I've put out over 1,500 blog posts and podcasts. And this new site over the past year is easily my proudest achievement over all of them. So what does that mean for you? Because it's always about you. It means that I'm going to ask you today to consider my words. What could you do different to get a different result? And if you're feeling stuck, are you going to give up or are you going to try to do something different? And I'm going to invite you to stay tuned to my Facebook, to YouTube, to Instagram, to my email channels, to my blog, for updates over the next month on what my new site is going to be able to do for you, as well as the reason I've never been more excited about my ability to help you find lasting love. So please subscribe to my social media. I'll try to pop in some links below. And you'll see daily Love You love stories, right? Success stories. I've got 30 marriages that I'm going to be showing you over the next 30 days of people who've joined me and my Love You course and have gotten married. I'm going to share you updates on how my new site is progressing because it's like building a house from scratch. It's a really big, exciting, laborious process. And I'm going to be sharing personal posts from my family, stuff that I've never revealed before, over the next few weeks if you follow me on social. So I appreciate you getting on Facebook Live and YouTube and following me today. I'll be back here on Facebook Live and YouTube next Tuesday with another update. And I really hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you so much for your time. Stick around to get some social media links. And I love you and appreciate you. Where can I comment? I don't even know where to comment on my own website. I think I'll share it after I'm done. All right.